Here we are back again at the RPS training centre. If you saw our last video, we were looking at best practice in sweeping for wood burners. We're going to have a slightly different view today in a different technique. We've got a different head and a different setup. So the stove that you see here is rear flued with a T-piece. The one we did before, if you notice, was vented through the top of the wood burner. As per the last video that I did, we'll be assuming throughout this that I'll be wearing my FFP3 mask and all other PPE required, but obviously I can't, so you won't be able to hear me talk. So here's the stove. It's an Ottawa curve, and it's got a T-piece out of the back going into the flue. We'll be using today a mole brush, which is the transition really between rotary power sweeping with whip heads like this, with a more manual looking brush like this. These are fantastic for liners, and they're very good at removing soft soot and letting you see what's going on before you perhaps have to go to a higher grade, more aggressive cleaning head. For old liners, they're fantastic because they're just not going to hurt anything really, but they do remove deposits. So we're also going to use a slightly different poly sheet than we used at the last time. The last time, if you remember, it was a dirty sheet. In fact, it was this one, soot stained, with a very simple hole in it for the rod guide to go through. This is a slightly more technical version. This is a heavy duty clear polythene sheet with a partial rod guide through it and a place to attach your hoover, your hoover here. So, as we did last time, we've inspected the flue in the chimney. We know what we're going to be doing. We have a magnetic inspection light here. Sorry if I've just blinded everybody. And that attaches inside the flue so that we can actually see what might be coming down into the flue surface. In this case, most of the material is going to end up in the sump. So, unlike before, we have a slightly different method for introducing the brush into the flue with this one. So this is the business end. My hoover will be attaching here, and this is the rod guide. But because of the relative hardness of this system, we need to introduce the rod, attach the mole brush to the end here, and then introduce all this into the system before we put the magnets on. So in we go, and because it's effectively a right angle bend, we have to perhaps just help it around that first piece. All of this time, my hoover would be going either in here, inside the firebox, so that anything which is disturbed through the process will get caught up in the hoover and not enter the property. And before getting involved in any of this, I would have swept and cleaned the inside of the wood burner as much as I could, to ensure that all friable stuff was not going to be disturbed during this process. So in we go. Introduce the brush up into the flue, and then push the rod guide onto it. So there we are. Brush is now up in the flue. Rod is sticking out at the end of the rod guide. We can now get on and attach our magnets as we did before. So again, as I said in the last video, there's no massively correct way of doing this. It's just about making sure that you have sufficient seal to the wood burner carcass to ensure that no soot is going to come out or no horizons are going to come out. One of the great beauties about 90-degree tees at the back, they're quite aggressive on your equipment because you've got a 90-degree bend to deal with right at the start of the sweeping process, but there's a long way for the soot to come out. So unless it's really dirty and it's coming down the chimney at a rate of knots, or down the flue at a rate of knots, it's highly unlikely that it's going to exit out the front of your wood burner through any small cracks that you have. And of course, because your hoover is running, this whole system should be under slight negative pressure. So air should be coming in through the holes rather than allowing soot to come out of the holes. But still, you know, good practice is to get the very best seal that you can all around the whole system. And you notice here I've got a range of magnets. It's about getting as much magnetic coverage as you can to keep the sheets on there. So we have one rod in, hoover's ready to go. He's attached to the end of the spigot now, so when the hoover was turned on, the inside of here will be under negative pressure. We can see what's happening, and we can, as we did before, manually introduce the rods up into the flue. So now we're 2 rods up. We should be hitting that second bend just about now, I think. And as we did before, manually introducing the rods into the flue. This is good practice because it does mean that you're not going to spin blindly into something up in the flue, which could snap your rods, could transfer all of the power of the drill to your wrist at the bottom if you haven't got your clutch set, and probably worst of all, ruin something inside your customer's house which you are going to be at least feel responsible and liable for. We're right at the top, the familiar clunk. We now have a length of rod sticking out of here, and it's worth mentioning, I did mention it in the last video, this idea of half rods. These are great. I keep one of these 2 sizes in my rod bag at all times, because it might be that you need just a half a length to finish it off. So you're not starting off your trooping process out here. So you've got a nice short rod to start with. So always keep one of these in your rod or in your bag. It's also very handy to lay your rods on as you're taking them out, so you know how many rods that you've used. That can be good because as you're coming down, if you do feel something that's a bit odd, you can separate the rods, and it gives you an idea where you need to go back to, should you wish to, or if you're going to camera survey it after. So here we go. Much as before, hoover's on so that anything that comes down this pipe is coming out of here. We've checked that the cap on the back of the bottom of the T-piece is stable and solid and isn't going to fall off through the process, because that can ruin everybody's day. And if you're concerned, you can just wrap some gaffer tape around it or something of that nature, just to keep that T-cap on the bottom, because some of them are just a push fit, and you wouldn't want it all falling out. Same as before, clutch set to 0, or clutch set to about halfway, so that should this bind up, your clutch will cut in and you won't suffer harm in the system or to yourself. And down on number 1. Thing to be aware of this time is that the friction on the system now is much increased in 2 places. Number 1, there's difference in the surface area between this is the one that we used last time, and the mole brush. Remember, all the hairs on the mole brush will be significantly greater. And secondly, you're going around a 90-degree bend. And whilst you may be able to see these pipes here, this may not be the standard configuration of a wood burner, and this is for training purposes, but you do have 2 bends, 4 bends quite early on in the system, so the friction around those is going to be adding to the weight loading on the end of your rods. So just be mindful, and don't go at full chat straight away. Again, because it's in this system here, it's not a flexible liner. We have vitreous enamel going into a Twinwall flue, so you don't need to keep to the anti-clockwise rule. And for me, I sweep one way clockwise, one way anti-clockwise, but that's just a habitual thing for me. So introduce the drill to your end rod, and away we go. Nice and slow to start, getting a bit faster as the rods get moving, especially around that friction. 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, much as we did before. So, and then it would be a case of up, down, up, down, up, down, all the way down, reversing the drill, should you feel that's part of your habitual practice. What I tend to do, especially with rear flued appliances, because although we've got the torch going in here, it's very unlikely we're going to see any material coming into this part of the box, because it'll all be down into the sump. So 2 rods down, we'll just do the second rod. So, 1, reverse direction. 2, reverse direction. You can do this almost while it's moving because of the position of the direction lever on this Milwaukee drill. It fits very nicely. This direction again. Let's just assume we've done our 6, or my 6. You know, your practice is your practice. There we are. Just caught in the top of the rod guide. Sweeping up and sweeping down. If you can, now would be a good time to just deconstruct this. And if you can, get your hand around your rods and the rod guide and just grab a handful of whatever's in the sump. That way you can have a look at what's coming down from the top of the liner. You can see whether it's got bits of liner in it, bits of vermiculite in it, whether it's those of you who've watched the last video will notice how dirty my sheet was here that I was using. Remember that poly sheet? So stripping that down and having a look and seeing what's actually fallen into the pan is really good practice, because by the time you've got to the bottom, you may have unwound some liner, or the liner might be damaged. You might see those little rusty flecks that is the warning sign that the liner is on its way out. So we carry on now down to the bottom. Noting how much more friction there is in the system pulling these out than there was last time. Popping them into the bag. Right, that's it. That's our mould brush into the vitreous liner there, and the mould brush is now at the bottom here. So like we did before, we'll take our dust sheet off here. And extricate the mould brush to the point at which we can just reach in and undo it and extract the rod. All the while our hoover going, and depending upon the particular circumstance, you might have it going here through the system, or just literally running and just inside the box. Off with the rod guide. Off with the seal. And now you're in a position to hoover out what's going on after you've extracted the mold brush down in the bottom of the sump. Now I would normally do that through the wood burner. It's very difficult to control soot escape or dust escape from the back of here if you're happy to take something off which is full. Your rod guide's quite handy for this. Basically post it down into the bottom of the sump and introduce the hoover onto the end of it, and it should suck up most of the stuff that's in there, if not all of it. Then you can have a look in with your mirror and get the rest out. So there we go, a different sort of system, a different sort of sheeting up process. And yes, I hope it's been useful, and thank you very much.